Hello, everyone. We are live. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Cherie Ariano, the host of the Ascension Sessions, and we are on day 2 of a wonderful week of the divine feminine wisdom during a huge planetary global shift. And tonight, our guest is Holly Marie. I'm so excited to share her with you. Hi, Holly. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's super good to be here.
It's awesome. So Holly was on our show 3 years ago. She was the first interview that we actually posted up here on YouTube. So if you guys haven't watched that video, be sure to go and watch it after this video. And and so I'm sure a lot has changed in 3 years. So I'm so glad to have you back on the show during such a critical time. I mean, the world is like kind of upside down right now. So here we are in 2020 going through this massive shift. And, I know you just went through a massive ordeal yourself. And so I thought it would be amazing to have you on to share your wisdom and your experiences. And, I know that you're a shaman, you're a healer, you're a hypnotherapy practitioner, and so you get to work with a lot of people on the front lines, right? And you get to work on healing wounds. So I want to hear kind of what's coming up in your world also.
Well,
I
well,
know that's a lot.
it's going to be a heavy week when your clients start waking up to adrenochrome.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big topic. A big,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so it's really we'll wanted to touch on a couple of things. I thought it was really interesting how you said that the world is upside down right now. In the shamanic, we call that Pachacuti, and Pachacuti is the creator, and he tips your world upside down to repixelate it, to reshape it.
Oh, wow.
So it's really fun to bring in these archetypes. But yes, it's been quite an experience to hold people as they wake up to what's really going on, and to hold that space where they to identify with a new truth and a new reality, and
Mhm.
then digest everything that they've learned was I.
Yeah, that's so interesting. When you described what he does, Pachacuti, is that how you say it?
Pachacuti. So
Oh, Pachacuti.
Pachk, Kuti.
Okay.
Pachacuti. And he's the creator and the archetype of the seventh chakra of the crown.
Oh, interesting. So I got a vision of like a kaleidoscope, when you're a kid and you look through those
Yeah.
kaleidoscopes and all the colors are kind of moving around. That's kind of what came in when you described him. And I feel like another translation of that would be like we're all fragmented, right? And so
Right.
when you turn us upside down and mix us all up, it's another way of bringing all those pieces back that are fragmented.
Absolutely. Now is such a critical point for people to retrieve soul pieces, because I do a lot of soul retrieval, and the soul pieces right now are waiting to come back. And it's really, really interesting, because I feel like going through this shift or this ascension process or whatever we want to call it, I feel we have to go through this hole, right? We have to go through this hole to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't bring all that baggage. You have to heal that trauma. So just last night I took someone through a journey, and I was literally like, okay, your guilt, that baggage, the this, the guilt, the shame, the whatever we went through, all the stuff we went through, I had them put them into giant suitcases and just send them away, because you can't take that dense energy. In the
Right.
shamanic, we call it hucha, dense energy. We want to get into Sami, the unrefined energy, to form what we want. And so it's like you can't take that. It's too small to go down that rabbit hole.
Right.
You got to leave all that luggage behind.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, how do you take all your dense, heavy third dimensional energy into the fifth dimension and move about the cabin freely? You can't.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't. You
Yeah.
can't. And it's really critical for people right now. And it's, for me personally, and what I'm seeing just in my limited reality, it really appears that everybody's stuff is coming up now.
Hmm.
All the shadows are coming up. The narcissism is coming up, which we totally talk about the 4D split. Um,
Yes,
but
let's talk about that.
okay, yeah. So
Well, hold on one second, in a minute, because I want to hear what you were saying before we move into that. And I also want to tell you who's in the chat room, because there's a bunch of people in there saying hi to you. So,
hi.
so really quickly, we've got Pat Breezy, Teresa Yanaros from Divine Frequency. What's up,
Oh,
girl? We've got Jeff Demers, and
sweet.
we've got John in the house. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We've got Lavinia Cordani, the Eye of the Needle. So everyone's like super excited and super excited that you're on the show tonight. So woo
That
woo.
sounds like some heavy hitters.
I
Wow.
know.
That's a lot of weight to pull.
No
And
pressure,
Jeff,
Holly.
we're not sideways.
Right.
It's like, hi, Jeff.
Instagram faux pas.
Right?
Teresa will appreciate that.
I know.
We went on Instagram TV yesterday and we were both sideways for like the first 10 minutes until I figured out that you can't do it that way.
It's okay. I can't even get on YouTube. I don't even know. You're like, get on YouTube in the chat. I'm like, how? You're lucky I got on. Are you kidding me? If it's not a rattle and a pendulum, no compute.
No comprende.
Yeah, right?
Oh my goodness. Holly and I, we always laugh a lot. So you guys are in for a good show tonight.
We are. And you know what? It's because there is not enough laughter right now.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
that literally, like kind of how we talked about the water yesterday. By the water, you're immediately sucked in to the distraction of the water, the sound, the flow, whatever it is about the water. It's like the laughter is the same way. You can't be like, oh, 19 is going to get me, and laugh at the same time. You can't.
Right.
As soon as you start laughing, it's like you get sucked into this different vortex, right?
Your timeline
So
shifts.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like though the shift that we're going through, whatever it is, the Schumann resonance, we've all seen it. We can graph it out, which is absolutely amazing. We can see it in the mass meditation, right? We can go back and measure how the Schumann frequency is risen and how all the light comes in. And I think it's really important because when it is the same exact duality, when we're seeing fake news like CNN, CBS, that's exactly what they're showing you is a bunch of BS. And we sit in front of this fear porn, we do the exact.
I never put that together.
That was Chris Geo that came up with that CBS.
That is
from
so
Truth Frequency
funny.
Radio,
Yeah.
right? And so then I took it a bit further. So we're sitting in front of this fear porn, and instead of these frequencies in, we're bringing these dark, dense energies up, right?
Right.
And so people that didn't choose to nerd out and do a bunch of research, most of them sat in front of their sitcoms, right? Right? They
right?
sat
And
calm,
watch their
sit.
television.
Yeah, with the programming.
Exactly.
And so it's like, oh, sit where like the
That's
pedophiles
so
are running
funny.
around doing all this nasty stuff, and you're gonna sit calm in front of something that's not funny, and you have to get the laughter piped in, and then, oh my God, you're gonna wake up to the reality and call somebody like us because you can't deal with coming down the pipe.
Oh my gosh. We were just talking about laugh tracks at dinner the other night because we were trying to explain it to our son who's 10. And Mark was like, yeah, so, back in the 70s and 80s, they would play this laugh track when you were supposed to laugh at the jokes. And he just thought that was so odd. He was like, what? And so we had to do like a real life reenactment of it to explain it. And it was so bizarre. We were like, what were they thinking back then?
It
Programming.
didn't funny, right? I mean, even though they're piping in this laugh,
Yeah.
I'm still sitting there like, okay, what, you're making me laugh already, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so is when I've been noticing, though, whether we're in control or not in control, something is happening where we're moving through the galaxy, planetary alignment,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, but it's like out of control for people's shadow work to be coming up.
Yeah.
It's just, it's all my stuff is coming up. Like it's like I feel like I'm walking through like the storm of like meteors, and it's like, oh, I didn't know I had that. It's like, oh, let me work on this piece, and then you start working this piece, and then it's like, whoa, here we go over here. And it's, I didn't know I was carrying that around from childhood,
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know? And so, and I'm seeing it with my, like, all this stuff is creeping up, right? And it's all about reason. It's all about going back to when you first had that chink in your armor, or like that break in the firewall, right? Like, what was that very first incident that caused that fractal to start replicating? Then you got to go back and undo the fractal, and you got
Mm-hmm.
to find the root of it. And it's just been fascinating to walk people through this process.
Yeah, I'm sure it has been. It's so funny you mentioned fractals because I had Geraldine on the show last night and she was talking about fractals, and she was talking about how we're all just, a fractal of our DNA. It's just a small piece of who we are in the multiverse, as multidimensional beings. So it's so interesting just to hear like similar terminologies from different healers and light workers in the community.
Right, right. And so, and I need, last night was a family night, but I really want to go back and listen to her. It and from in my experience, we create these fractals, and then, from trauma or from our ancestors, and they just, if you don't go back to the very root of that fractal, it just continues to replicate. It
Hmm.
just continues. It's like people come in with an issue, and it's like, oh no, that's not what the issue is, once you get into that regression aspect of everything.
Hmm.
And it's like you have to unravel the timeline. You have
Yeah.
to unravel all the way back to that timeline, and then
Which can be
defrag the
really
fractal.
which can be really far, right? Because like what if it's an ancestral wound that goes back several generations?
Then we just call the ancestors.
Hmm.
And that's what's amazing. I do a lot of ancestral healing, and it, I have never once taken somebody to call forth their ancestors. And I've never been like the ancestors, like, oh, like, no, we want this. We stay stuck. This never happened. The ancestors come like flying in. I mean, they come in, right? No
Yeah.
matter who I'm working with, they're just boom, right there.
Hmm.
And they just start to divulge all information, right? I mean, it's so enlightening. And then I know everyone has different modalities that are all very successful. um, for me, I use client as a surrogate to clear ancestors' trauma. I'll find it in, I use the chakra system as a timeline. So I'll be able to clear it from that ancestor. And I just worked on a lady last night. We had like 3 ancestors to clear over. It's just, they're just like, yeah, we're ready. Like, thanks for helping us out. And boom, they're gone. And you can see the total shift. The
Yeah.
whole energy of the room will just lighten up.
That's amazing. That's so powerful and such important work that you're doing for people. I mean, this is the time to do it, you know? And I was going to ask you, like, do you think it was part of this plan to have people sit at home and like face their shadows? And like, do you think that they thought it through that far? Like,
No.
let's make them sit at home and improve themselves by looking at all their stuff and and having their shadow work come up. Because I mean, you had to know that was gonna happen, right?
I think I think they wanted people to sit home and go stir crazy and not get ascension questions and not, watch Out of Shadows and these amazing documentaries. I think they wanted to people sit at home in front of their sitcoms until they were absolutely dying to get out, saying, I'll take vaccine, I'll take your microchip, whatever
Mhm.
it is, let me just go be free. And I think it's backfiring.
So you think they were like, let's just make them really desperate to get out and do, and they'll do what, let's make them submissive, weak, and then they'll do whatever we want, kind of thing.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard today that they're, my intuition is that they're going to keep like pushing the shelter in place date out like little by little. Someone said to me today, "Oh, I've seen everything on the internet from they're going to actually start letting people out sooner than anticipated to people aren't going to get out till 2022. Like they're going to keep it in place till 2022." And I thought, that just sums it up right there. You can't you can't trust, hardly any news sources because the information that's coming out is so varied. It's so varied, sorry. And and it's so dualistic in nature too. I feel like there's a lot of duality coming up in social media, especially between like, are you a conspiracy theorist or are you not, and so now that's the new like Democrats versus Republicans topic.
Well, I love being called a conspiracy theorist
You
because
love what?
I love being called a conspiracy theorist because
Hmm.
I always remind people that the CIA coined that term in 1968 for the truth seekers. And if you think I'm a conspiracy theorist, right where they suck, not me.
Can you say that again? Because I think our connection was broken up a little bit.
Oh, am I loud enough?
Yeah, you're loud enough. It's just your voice went in and out a couple times, and I want people to be able to hear what you said because I know it was really important.
Okay, so is what I said is that I don't know what I said. I said I
You
love being
said
called I love being called a conspiracy theory because it gives me the opportunity to remind people that that term was coined in 1968 to shut down the truth seekers.
mhm,
And if you're going to fall for the conspiracy theorist, that you're
program.
right where the government wants you. It's like you're the sucker, not me.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a really good point, and I love that you've kind of made me think about like when you see conspiracy theorist, you can substitute it with truth seeker because that's ultimately what you become when you go down the rabbit hole. And I love that post you posted the other.
You cut out. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Do we
Iris,
freeze? Okay, I
I'm
didn't hear
moving.
you. You totally cut out.
Okay. I was saying, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Can you hear me now? You make me laugh so much. I was saying that I love how you replace the word conspiracy theorist with truth seeker, because ultimately that's what we or they are, you know? And it's like once you go down the rabbit hole of conspiracies, you're basically searching for the truth. And it's too bad. Uh-oh, now you're frozen. Can you hear me?
Oh, am I frozen in a bad position?
No, you look great. You look very elegant,
Okay.
actually. But as long as you can hear me.
I can hear you. You're frozen like this, but I can hear you.
That's funny. What was I saying? Oh, you posted on Facebook a rabbit's behind going down a hole. Do you remember? And you said something about going down the rabbit hole.
Those were our Easter cupcakes.
Those were
Yeah,
so
like
cute.
those were our Easter cupcakes because I'm super uncreative. So I just got it on the package and I'm like, oh, we could do that. They were like little sugar feet that you put on the cupcake. And
Uh-huh.
then after I was like, oh my God, it's going down the hole. It's the rabbit hole. No coincidences.
It was so perfect though, because it was like, you know, we've all been there, right? We've all gone down a rabbit hole of some topic, you know, whether it's contact, UFOs, Bill Gates's vaccine agenda, COVID-19, viruses in general. I mean, you know, I'm sure we've all studied them at some point. So it was really cute. But yeah, so I wanted to ask you like um what's your intuition on the current state of the world? Like have you been getting downloads or messages, you know, from your spirit guides as to what we can expect in the next weeks, months, days?
You know, it's really funny, and I just want to be really honest with people. I got really thrown for a loop with that whole Peru thing. I went right into survival mode, and I have felt a little bit disconnected. And I was telling you earlier, Cherie, I just had my two friends in San Diego like unhook my Aka cords and clear me out. And they basically said that every fluid in my body was toxic. And they worked on me for about 2 hours. So I feel like I've been a little bit
Change
clouded since.
connection. Hold on, Holly, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, I think you're back now.
Am I back?
Yeah, so we missed that whole thing. All I heard was since you were talking about you had a healing session since you
Yeah,
came
today's
back.
been, I've been really thrown off since I've been back from Peru. It just kind of threw me. So I feel like I'm finally there enough now to be able to start getting downloads again. I kind of think we're in this, well, I know we're in this major war, and I think it's really up to the people. And I think that we're going to have to take identity back, take off the masks, do our research, stop being so fear mongered, and stand up for our rights. And I have a feeling that it's going to turn out to be peaceful protests. And I have a feeling that, yes, some people might get arrested, but if we keep backing down, and if we keep giving up their rights, like you said yesterday, it's like a frog in the water boiling. It's like, oh, it's a spot now, but then what? And I think it's time for the people to stop looking for disclosure, stop looking for a leader, and bring the power back into our own hands. And if we
Absolutely.
have to silently protest or peacefully protest, then do it. I mean, I'll tell you what, man, I went jogging today. My gym is so I jog now. I hate it, but I went jogging today, and like everybody's out. Oregon, everybody's out. But I'll tell you what, you can't keep an Oregonian in when the sun shines. Like
Yeah.
9 months of rain, no virus is gonna keep us inside. Forget it.
I know. It's the same here. But go ahead.
So, I mean, it's gonna come down to the people, and I think that the people's emotions are gonna tip the scale on the collective outcome. I think it is about us doing our inner work, and when we begin to shift past that fear and we step into that higher level of thinking and consciousness, then I think the scale tips favor. But I think we're going to be in a lot of limbo until we actually do our inner work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what's really important right now is that people really claim their sovereignty. You know, like I just went through that. I shared with you, I claimed my Independence Day on
Yes.
March 13th. I declared my own personal sovereignty, and declared that I would never give my power away to another human being. You know, and I learned that I was doing that and it was just holding me back. And so we can look at that example, that mini example on a global level, and look at all the places we're giving away our power, you know, to others where we don't think we're in control of this vessel, you know. And I think if we can all just do that, like we could have a totally different society right now.
Well, it's really funny that we had that conversation because as I told you, when I was in Peru, I started getting rid of narcissistic women. Like if I
Yes.
had any sort of pushback on my social media, I'd go back and think about, well, how is my relationship with these people? And if it wasn't in my highest best interest, I got rid of them.
Right.
So in a sense, we're kind of both pulling back our power.
Yeah.
And that was a big lesson for me in Peru. Like, what am I giving my power up to? Am I giving it to fear? Am I giving it, all this stuff? And it really made me value my time a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm.
And then I come back and you're like, oh, named Independence Day and this big shift. And it's like, okay, how many more people are doing this?
Yeah. I know, it was kinda interesting that we both had a very similar experience at the same time.
And is how I think about that, and I'm sure it resonates with you maybe, is that if we're having that experience,
The collective is.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's kinda like not a coincidence because I feel like as, you know, we're here to serve, right? We're here to help people heal and to go through this ascension and with the least amount of resistance. And so I feel like we needed to learn that lesson individually. We needed to claim our power so that we can enable others to do the same, especially now, especially with what we're going through. I mean, isn't it weird that it happened like right before the lockdown? It happened right before the lockdown. So it's kind of
um,
interesting, you know?
right,
Yeah.
right. And I think we've been on this path for a while. Of course, like there's still so much for me to learn, but I really feel like people who are maybe a little bit newer on their path, they're not even aware of what they're giving their power to.
Mhm.
And that's a huge problem. And when we like in the shamanic, we call them uh couscous. It's an opening right below your belly button. It is not the second chakra, it's an opening in your energy field. And out of that opening is little like filaments of light continue to every, like your hospital where you were born, your parents, your schools, your teachers. It's little filaments of light that we are connected to. And it's like, are we going to clean out the sludge and pull back our power, or are we going to keep giving it away?
Mhm.
And I really see, especially on the political platform and the mainstream media platform, people are literally giving their power away to fear mongering. And is all they're doing is they're creating loose the reptilian entities, which is feeding the dark side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that all of this is, you know how they say like follow the money? Well, in this case, I'm going to say like follow the loosh. Do you think we're literally in a battle between light and dark right now?
Absolutely. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I totally do. I think we're in a battle against the satanic forces, the reptilian forces, um, the AI forces. I think we're in a huge battle right now, and people really need to claiming personal responsibility, stop the blaming,
Mm-hmm.
bring it in and shift it within if we're going to get out of this.
How are your dreams? How are have your dreams been lately? I had a really weird dream last night about a reptilian, and
You did.
I did. Yeah, I can't remember the details, but it was so disturbing it woke me up. Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm
that's
wondering
good.
how your dreams are. Yeah, it was good that I woke up for sure.
Wow, that's really interesting. You know what? I dreamt in Peru, and I remember that my dreams were not that good in Peru. Oh, I had bad dreams in Peru. Since I've been back, I've been sleeping so hard that I'm not remembering my dreams. I've
Hmm.
just been like conked out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had a few nights like that for sure. But last night was
Hmm.
all like lucid dreaming. It was crazy. Hey Lisa, Lisa Frith is in the house. How are you doing?
Hi, Lisa.
So
That's
good,
awesome.
so good that you're here with us. That's amazing. Yeah, we're just talking about, conspiracies, reptilians, the good old stuff. Oh my goodness. So,
Well,
what are some things that people can do to start becoming aware of places and spaces where they give away their power so that they can become more sovereign? Like, because I
I
know
think
when
people
I was doing it, I wasn't aware of it,
know.
until like the shit hit the fan. And then I was like, okay, enough is enough. And I started looking at it and researching and investigating, and I realized what was happening. But when you're in it, it's really hard to be aware of it.
You know what? I experienced this. We experienced very similar things, and unfortunately, with people, I think everybody's BS meter is different, and it's like it has to get to that tipping scale, and then they've
Mhm.
really got to look back and see clear picture. And that's the unfortunate thing, because when we're in, like as you were saying, is oh, I was getting all the love bombs, and I was getting all this, and I was getting the phone call every day and the compliments, da, 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 da. And I was in that boat, and you don't see it until it's too late. You don't
Mhm.
see it, excuse me, until you've hit that place of I can't take a wound, or something blows up, and then you just go back and analyze the timeline.
Yeah.
And
But
go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say you're breaking up a lot, by the way. But how's
Yeah,
your internet? Is it okay right now?
I got Comcast. I'm like
Me too.
5G radiated out. Should I have headphones?
No, I don't think it's a sound issue. I think we just have a really weird connection.
I've been getting that all day with my
Okay.
friends in San Diego. I've been getting it all day.
Have you heard about 3 days of internet darkness?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so I heard that it wouldn't go down completely, but that it would be spotty, like really bad for a few days. So,
Yeah, I heard that too, and it would be really slow. So it's not us. It's the 3 days of darkness. No, I heard
it's
that it would
starting
be
right now.
really,
Just kidding.
yeah, right. I was kind of hoping that it would go down for 3 days.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
was hoping that we'd have a solid cut. I was hoping that we would have this big sort of like jolt, because there are a lot of people in denial still.
Yeah.
Like, I am still hearing the most absurd stuff that
Mhm.
people are just, they're not willing to even rationalize, because they've got to be on one political side or the other, and it's so petty. And it's like, at this point we need to move on. The Hopis say the right and the left wing both belong to the same bird. It's like, when are we going to kick that bird to the curb and like start creating our own reality and get back to like the basic needs of what we want and work together, right? Like, this
Yeah.
conquer and divide agenda is just, it's so old, and people are like, my
Yeah.
Kool-Aid cup is empty, can you fill it with some more programming? No.
Yeah, exactly. And so going back to the sovereignty topic, that's what I mean is like, we had we had a particular experience individually, but I'm talking more about like the general basics ways that people give away their sovereignty. So whether it's in the medicinal field or in the educational field or in the legal system, I mean, political system, we're constantly giving away our power, right? um, do you have like 3 tools and tips that you can give people for how to become aware of where they might be doing that and where they might be weakening their fields and their systems in those ways?
You know,
I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
you are. You are. You know,
You don't have to answer the question.
well, I kind of do, actually.
Okay.
I kind of do. No. So, I mean, I really think it comes down to awareness. Like, if you're constantly, like, moms are classic examples, right? I got to do everything. If you're not taking time out to do a bit of self-care for yourself, then you got to back up and be like, where am I giving my power away? And think of it as finances. Like, if you're on a limited budget, what can you cut out, right? What's the least important thing that is on your plate that you can cut out? Right? So if you can do it financially, you can do it energetically. But I think people give away their power out of fear. That's the bottom line. And until you clear that fear and that original wound, and you defrag that fractal and create a new fractal, you're going to keep dishing it out. I mean, it's like, I can tell that people, like, you can almost see if they listen to mainstream or alternative, right? Like, the mainstreamers, the gloves and the mask and the freaking like Lysol spray, and they're going in the stores like in hazmat suits, and then there's like the other people who don't have fear, and we're like, hey, whatever, right? Like, what virus,
Right.
And so it's really about clearing that fear.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you go out in public, do you wear a mask?
Nope.
Nope.
No, I don't wear masks.
I knew you would say no.
I did at first because, well, I didn't have a mask, but I kind of did at first because I'm like, well, what if this is serious? Like, what, and it is a real virus. Like, it is a real virus. It is highly contagious. I did wear a mask coming home from Peru for like a bit. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Enough is enough, right?
Right. Because why? If your frequency is too high, you're immune to it.
Well, right? That's what
if you can keep your frequency high. I mean, you were in a really stressful situation, so it was probably a good idea to wear a mask then.
Right. But I'm just not going to get the virus.
Yeah.
I'm just not going, I'm not making allowance for it.
Right.
Right. Okay. So that's another thing. In a group of amazing people, there were a couple of people who were really adamant that they had these food allergies. And I brought up that, oh, I used to have gluten intolerance. And I said, I don't have it anymore. I'm really happy I don't have it anymore. And they're like, well, what did you do? And I said, I stopped allowing it. I got
Mm.
bored of it. I got bored of like passing up all the scones that I wanted. And I got
Yeah.
bored of trying to find gluten-free stuff. Do I still, if it's easy, I will go gluten-free, absolutely. But it's like we have got to stop allowing
Exactly.
the things in that hurt us. So
Mhm.
just don't allowance for it. Fill it up with something else.
Yeah. So can I share an example of that?
Yeah.
So I had like 3 years in a row, I would get the flu in February, and my lungs would always get attacked because I'm asthmatic, or I was asthmatic. And the third year, I got pneumonia really bad, and I almost died in the hospital. I went to the hospital, to the ER. I had a coughing fit in the lobby, and I couldn't breathe. And then, you know, I couldn't breathe. It was like a panic attack mixed with uh, just not being able to breathe because I was so sick. And the nurses were super nonchalant, and they were like, da 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 da, and thank God I had my inhaler in my pocket, because it took them like 20 minutes to get the machine down, the breathalyzer, not the breathalyzer, what's that
Mm,
machine they give you, the albuterol, so you can breathe
yes.
again. And they were so nonchalant about it. I felt like I was going to die. They couldn't care less. And I was like, should I use my inhaler? And they were like, yeah, yeah, go ahead and use that, like super chill, whatever. I survived. But after that, after I recovered from that pneumonia, I said, gosh darn it, I will never get pneumonia again, especially in February. I declared this vessel is not allowed to have lung issues ever again, especially in February. And that was last year. And thank God, because imagine if that pattern kept repeating and I had it again this February, right during the COVID outbreak.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Or sorry, that wasn't last year. That was 2 years ago. So I didn't get it last February, and I didn't get it this February.
I think the most important word that you said was you declared it.
Yeah.
You declared it. So our words, as you know, and I'm sure most people listening know, our words are so powerful that we're manifesting into the negative or into the positive, right? So like a lot of times I'll have a client come in and they'll be like, I'm depressed and I'm this and I'm that. And I'm like, well, yes, you are. Like, look how you just declared that. Like you said
Yeah.
that with so much conviction. I hate
Right.
my husband. I'm like, wow, you said that with so much conviction,
Right.
right? I mean, you're adamant about that. And so it's being aware of where we're really like solidifying that energy.
Right.
I'm a great manifester and I'll say it out loud, and then when things go totally downhill, it's like, oh yeah, what did I say to manifest that?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think, and that's the other thing, like we have to be super careful of our words. Somebody that I really adore in the community just came out, and I didn't hear it, but one of my clients is like, so and so said, pray this way. And I said, oh, I said, I really love this person, but that's a negative. So if you don't want interference, what do you want instead? And she's like, harmony. I said, that's what you need to pray for, is harmony.
Right.
Don't pray for what you don't want. And it's the same thing in hypnosis. It's like you don't program the
Mm-hmm.
person with what they don't want. You program with them with what they do want. And so
Exactly.
it's really, but we're stuck in this program. It's so second nature that we're not even aware of it, right?
Right.
And so it's that defragging, and then that um you got to
Programming.
recreate that pattern.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the work that I do, it's all I am statements, and we always focus on the positive, you know.
Yes.
We always put in what we want. I mean, we can take out the negative and say what we no longer want, but it's very important to reinforce it with the positive and the things that you do want to manifest and attract in your life.
Absolutely. So
Mhm.
I don't know if this was in your training. I'm going to assume it's pretty universal, but how I was taught is when you take something out, you always have to replace it with something.
Mhm.
And
Well,
and
not that literal, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
well, yeah, like when you remove, you got to put back in. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of people out there who just giving information or these
Mhm.
past life readings or you know bringing these really negative feelings up to the surface, and then they're sitting, they're not being cleared away. And
Mhm.
that's so dramatic for people, especially if somebody goes and gets a past life reading and it was super dramatic, and then they don't clear that energy builds back up again because it was brought to the surface, and then you start
Yeah.
feeding it all this energy. And
Exactly.
so
That's a really good point. Yes. Keep going. I want to comment on that.
yeah, and so I feel super bad for people who go to I don't want to use the wrong word, but go to people who aren't quite as conscious about clearing the energy. And
Mhm.
then they'll call up someone like me or you, and they're like, I had this tarot reading, or I had this and I had that. Now I'm all screwed up. Like I was eaten to death by a bear and now I've got all this pain. And it's like, well, yeah, you have to clear that energy, and the energy isn't being cleared. There's a lot of energy that's just being set on the table. And something that really worries me about this COVID thing is
Mhm.
that when this is all said and done, everybody's going to rush out to who? Not us, their mental health therapists, who their mental health therapists don't know about the pedophiles, don't know about adrenochrome, don't know about the secret space program. How do I know? Because every time I talk to a mental health therapist, they start taking notes. Then they don't even know how to clear the energy. And it's
Mhm.
like, this is bad news, man. This is bad news. Like I just had a nurse come into me who goes to therapy, and she's like, I had to quit going because they bring up all these feelings and then they're not clearing it out.
Exactly. You leave with like a hole in your heart, in your emotional body. And here's another good example of that. So I had a reading by a psychic medium in February at the Conscious Life Expo. And she was really good, but so my stepdad came in.
Ooh.
Okay. Totally surprised me, totally unexpected. And it brought up like a huge amount of emotion for me. So after she read what she read, she said, like, he's here for you. He's really proud of you, blah, blah, blah. Our relationship didn't end well when it ended in the real world, IRL. And so I was really kind of surprised that he came through, even though I was grateful he had a positive message. It still left me feeling really raw, because all those emotions came up from childhood. And I was like, oh, so this is really interesting. So I guess what I want to share is, like, if you guys go to a psychic or a medium, they're not healers, and they're going to maybe bring up some stuff that's going to open up some wounds. So make sure you have Holly's number on speed dial so you can so you can go work on it afterwards. So yeah, that happens a lot. Like people bring up your stuff and it's just floating in your field, but you've got to remove it and then heal it and fill it back with positivity and light.
Well, you did the same thing when you did mind clearing up at Soul Tech, like which was amazing, amazing. And it was so cool because we're like, okay, yeah, this is it. Let's like boom. And then it's like you barely even started. I said, oh, it's clear, right? Remember that?
Yeah, that was so
We were
powerful.
laughing, but you brought in, you filled it up. What I needed to clear, you filled it up. And that's so crucial. And
Hmm.
I I hear a lot of these new healers coming on the scene, right? And it's just like I just had this one lady come, and she's like, every time I've worked with her on and off for a couple years, every time I do Reiki, she says she's a Reiki practitioner. And then I want to talk about the fourth dimensional split. Um,
Yes, I have that. Written
Every
down.
time she says, every time I do Reiki, my daughter starts freaking out. She like gets petrified. And I'm like, well, why would your daughter get petrified? Like what? I say, you tell me everything you're doing. So she goes through the whole process of what she's doing. And then she's like, and then I sweep the energy down. And I'm like, well, then what? She's like, nothing. I'm done. So there's a bunch of people out there doing Reiki who are just sweeping it off of them. And, you know, when I sat at this secret tribal gathering, like a couple of years ago, I go every year. And when I sat there, they said, and I'd already gotten this download, right? I had already gotten this download. It's like, I am no longer putting the dense energy into the earth, even though all the natives say, put it into the earth and she'll combust it and she likes it and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, she doesn't. She's done. We have fracked her to death. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. So
Right.
I go to this gathering. So I make sure I put it in the fire. So I go to this gathering and they're like, the mother, like, Pachamama's full. Stop putting the energy into the ground. She is full.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't do it anymore. So I had my client, I said, well, don't sweep the energy down. I said, gather it up and put it in the fire, put it in a candle. And she calls me up like a couple, and I said, go do your Reiki and let me know. She calls me up. She's like, oh my God, I did it. I put it in the fire. My daughter comes rushing in. She starts asking me about Jesus. She starts asking me about like the wedding pictures on the wall. It was totally different. So and then I saw someone on Instagram saying to put the energy into the earth, right? And so I M'd her. I didn't put it publicly. Like, people really need some social media etiquette. I went on the back end and I'm like, hey, I saw your post and I said, I'm just sharing what I got from, you know, these tribes, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I just wanted to share that. And she writes back, she's like, oh, I checked in with Archangel Michael and it's fine to dump it into the earth. And it's like, no, it's what you did is you checked in with your ego, and your ego showed up is Archangel Michael to make you right.
Wow.
You didn't want to be open enough, because you're the big Reiki master. You didn't want to be open enough to a lesson. And even though I approached it with like, hey, take it or leave it, right? Like, I'm not your authority.
Yeah.
But when she didn't check in with Archangel Michael. She checked in with her ego that showed up as Archangel Michael. And that's what we have to be super careful of when we channel. Yeah. There is so much interference going on right now. Mm-hmm. It's like that. So that's why I primarily work with the archetypes of the shamanic medicine wheel, because it's like Jaguar's Jaguar, right? Atarango's coming into mulch heavy energy. It's like if Atarango comes in and starts, you know, drinking your beer, okay, you know it's compromised, right? Like he's or she's got one job. The archetypes that I work with have one job. They can't give me, they can give me different messages, but they come in to do a specific job. So in my world, it cuts down on a lot of compromising.
Right.
So like if I'm working with angels or Archangel Michael or, you know, these spirit guides, then their answers can get really skewed,
muddled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Archangel Michael is the one who has like the most defined job in a way in terms of all the archangels.
Oh, you cut out. You cut out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Or did I cut out?
Can you guys hear us? Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, awesome.
Verizon's gonna get you for copywriting.
Verizon?
Yeah.
How did I copyright Verizon?
Can you hear me now?
I'm a little slow. That was funny.
So, can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm gonna check and see if there's any questions for you in the chat room, but keep going.
Okay, so Archangel Michael just saved me, man. I I remove entities all the time. It's not a problem. Like, it's a cakewalk, right? Like, that's what people call me to do, remove entities. It's like even big ones, it's like, okay, like it's good. Man, I worked with my first possessed person. And
Oh,
I mean,
wow. Really?
uh-huh. And where I work, the lady who works there has gone through my shamanic medicine wheel. And I was like, man, I need your help. Like, can you help me? So I'm working with this person, and it's the person, and then going into this paralysis, and then the entities coming in.
This
So
this is
there's
like in real life, in person. You're doing this
this
work in
is
person.
in person.
Okay.
This is in person. So I go to my office mate and I'm like, man, I need some help. Like I'm exhausted at this point. I pulled out my double terminated crystal to get the entity in the light. That's something we do in the shamanic. She's like throwing the crystal, like her arms flying up. And I'm just like, at this point, I mean, and I've worked with people in the fetal position. I've worked with I've had entities talk through people. Like I've done a lot, right? Man, this one I'm just like scratching my head at this. I'm throwing in the towel, you know. And so I get my office partner and I'm like, I need help. Okay, so she comes in and she does this whole other spiritual thing. Like, I'm not all sure what she does, but she comes in and she says to the lady who's younger than us, she's like, you are under our protection and authority. Oh, dude, this girl lifts up off the table, like she's on her back. She lifts up on her back, drops to the floor, rolls around, like bangs her head into the shelves,
Oh my
bangs her
God.
head into the window, bangs her head into the wall, and just slumps down and starts crying. The room was trash, like the shelves are all messed up, everything was everywhere. And she had blacked out. She didn't even know what happened. And I'm like, Archangel, like I had to call in Archangel Michael, and I'm just like, dude, I can't. This one's out of my league. It was crazy.
Oh my goodness. That sounds really intense.
It
D-
was literally it was literally a Hollywood movie.
Did
Like
did
it was like nothing I've ever experienced.
did the being end up leaving her body permanently?
The last time I talked to her before Peru, it was still gone. So the before she came in, and I mean, I've removed entities that were like killing cats and rabbits. Like I've done this before. Before she came in, I had a consultation call, and I'm like, okay, one of two things are going to happen. Either nothing is going to happen, or it's going to get really pissed. She calls me up a couple hours later. She put her dogs in their
Boy,
room, and the dogs have grown up together. Did you hear
can you
me?
no, you were cut out for like 30 seconds.
Oh man. Okay, so when she calls me for the consultation call, I said one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to nothing's going to happen, or the entity's going to get a little pissed.
Mhm.
She had her dogs in this room. The dogs have grown up together. Like she's always done this, and she came home and the dogs were bleeding from their necks. Like one of the ears was missing, one of the tooth was missing. Like it had attacked their dog. So
Oh my
it was,
goodness.
yeah, it was awful. It was terrible.
Wow. That's intense. So would you do that again?
No,
Yeah.
no. I had to call in Archangel Michael,
Mhm.
and at that point, it was totally out of my hands, and I will continue to remove entities, but I will not. you can't really tell though if somebody's like, you couldn't, she didn't seem any worse than the other ones, but
Until that happened.
it scared me.
Yeah.
It scared me.
Yeah, that would be scary for sure.
And I mean, I've removed like 7 to 9 foot like avatars that wanted, or not avatars, minotaurs, the half man, half bull,
Yeah,
whatever.
Minotaur.
Yes, that wanted to like torture, kill me before. I mean, this is what I do, but I've never worked with anything like that. That was crazy.
Wow. That's insane.
It's like, am I getting punked? Is this thing getting videotaped? Like, what is going on?
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad you came out of it in one piece. So let's check in. It's 5 o'clock. How are you doing? Do you need a break? Are you good? Can we
Oh,
keep
I'm
going?
good.
Okay, cool. So, you guys in the chat room, I hope you're still there. We've had some connection issues. I apologize, and I hope you're still with us. So, if you guys have any questions for me or Holly, please put them in all caps so I can see them more easily in the chat room. Hey, Olivia. Olivia joined us. Thank you so much
Oh,
for being here.
that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, love Olivia. And John says we cannot hear. Cherie cannot hear. It's the weather. Yeah, hopefully it's going to get better. It says we're still live. So I'm going to trust that and keep going.
Okay, cool.
So let's talk about the 4D split. I want to hear what that is in your definition. And I want to talk about timelines and how we manifest them and how we are, infinite co-creators of our own reality, and how this time right now is more crucial than ever to create your own timeline. So, 4D split.
Okay, so is what I've learned, and this was new to me. I didn't know about a 4D split. So is what I've learned is that there's like the 4D, and then there's this inch, right? The lower 4D is like you could measure it in an inch. And that is the people who can do healing, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they identify with what they can do instead of just being of service. So I'm trying to say that tenderly, right? So it's the people that make these massive claims that end up, they can do the work, they can actually do the work, but it's like the narcissism of healers. Like I'm this, I'm that, I did this, I did that. It's like the white people that go through the shamanic medicine wheel, then come out calling themselves a shaman, right? And so it's that brings you down into that lower 4D split. And is what it does is it clogs the 4D. It's like this thick filter because it's still an ego. It's like, yes, I can do all this magical stuff, but my ego is still going to be in the way. And so it's when we get out, when we shed those labels and we can still do what we're supposed to do and share our gifts, that's like the higher split of the 4D. And that's where we all want to go. That's where we all want to be. And
So,
so,
if
go
I
ahead.
understand what you're saying there's like 3D, and then there's 4D, and then there's 5D. But in this lower portion of 4D, there's like a 1 inch, ratio wise, space that is like a lower density
Yes.
where people get trapped in their ego. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, you said that much more eloquently. Yes.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so it's and I think we've both experienced
Yeah.
people in that realm.
So are you saying that, like, if you're a light worker or a healer or a shaman or whatever, but you're trapped in your ego rather than just focusing on being of service and healing, that your energy body cannot go higher than that space to access divine energy? Is that what you're saying?
It it can go higher, but it kind of, it's like the sediment, right? It keeps it keeps people in duality.
Mhm.
It keeps, like, my shamanic teacher loved to call herself a shaman, and she loved to like insult people, and she loved to be the big fish. And
Mhm.
when I teach the medicine wheel, I'm sitting equal, and I'm not teaching, I'm just sharing information that you haven't maybe discovered yet or remembered yet, right? So I'm sitting equal, not above. And so is what I'm doing is I'm squishing that duality, the teacher student. It's no, we're just equal. I'm just sharing information that maybe you haven't remembered yet, or you forgot, or whatever. And so it's creating this inequality, and it's creating that guru mentality. And
Right.
so we need to move past that, and we need to move past that, and go back into that wound of why we need to be heard so bad, or why we don't feel heard, and
Mhm.
just be okay with it. Like,
Yeah.
I've had people literally run their resumes down on me before, like, and just meeting them, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm Holly. Nice to meet you. Like, I don't give you. There is no list, right?
Right.
There's no list.
That's true. That's so true. I mean, it's a really nice way to put it, and it's really nice to kind of provide that visual that you just provided of like sitting with them and being an equal, because I do agree that like the old paradigm of like uh yogi and student, it's very unequally weighted, and it's like the poor student is always striving and they're never good enough, right? Like they're never going to reach that status. So it puts you in a place of inferiority automatically, and we weigh or measure a person's gifts by their experience, by their education, and all of those things are important, but they're not the only thing that's important. Some people are born with amazing gifts and they have an inner knowing and they come through here on a mission to do something which may be more powerful than somebody who went to school and learned it. So we have to acknowledge that each person is a divine being and a divine creator, and we all come in with what we're supposed to do here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's you're right. It's breaking down that inferiority,
Hmm.
because what you're good at, you have the same thing that you're not good in, that someone else is good in.
Right.
Doesn't make us better.
Hmm.
But we've gotten into this whole healing, this new cage thing, and it's so limiting, right? Like, people go, oh, sorry, I'm not blasting on Reiki masters, by the way, but it, there sure is a lot of people that have to, cling on to that label. Okay, maybe I am, who cares? But it's okay. I'm one too. But it's like, people think that they're building themselves up with these labels. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm a that. It's completely limiting. It's completely inverted. It's completely dense. Why would you want to be any of that? In fact, in the East, when I teach that direction, we literally take every single label we've ever been told, like all of the labels, mom, cousin, bitch, student, everything. And we tediously tie them around sticks with a red ribbon, and then we burn all those labels. And the ritual effect of that is so freeing, because you
Hmm.
realize the labels are limitations.
Totally. Totally limitations. I had that experience, not that exact experience, but I love that ritual because I had that experience without doing the ritual last year, or actually at Soul Tech. At Soul Tech, that was kind of
Ah,
my breaking free, if you will, because I was so stuck in how to label myself that I couldn't move forward. And I had a breakthrough there at Soul Tech that was like, wait a minute, you don't need to put yourself in a box. You don't need to label yourself.
with Christine.
Yeah, with Christine Contini
Yeah,
and Laura Cantu, they were there and it was in their workshop. Yeah,
nice.
so that was really powerful because I was so hooked, like tripped up on like, but I'm a graphic designer, but I'm a filmmaker, but I'm a healer, but I make bracelet, like I do a lot of things. And it's really hard to like put all of that on your business card, right? Because people want you to label yourself and they want to stick you in a box. So when they meet you, they go, oh, I'm going to call her for my healings. I'm going to call her for my oils. I'm going to call her for my Reiki, and it's just the way we've been programmed. It's the way we've been taught. And it's the way we've been raised, like we kind of go to school to become an accountant or a teacher or a lawyer or whatever. And now I feel like so many people are waking up and they're bringing out their intuitive gifts and their
Mm.
um a lot of gifts are coming online, especially right now in the shutdown, the shelter in place. I feel like people who've always wanted to paint might start painting, or people who've always wanted to learn how to craft are going to start crafting, whatever it is. Like, this is the time to unlock your soul's purpose and do it, and don't get stuck in labeling yourself, because it really is like you feel like you're moving like a robot, like do I go this way, do I go that way, like really just like be free.
Right.
Don't label yourself. Be grateful that you have all those gifts and you can do all of those things and share them with the world. Share them freely. That's my advice.
Well, no, and I think that's a really good point. Now is a really good time to. I just read a newsletter, and it's like, what's on your back burner? Like, now is the time to take that off the back burner and bring it forward, right? Mine was
Yeah.
video editing, and
Oh,
I
cool.
finally figured it out. Like, that was my thing, video editing. So now I can do that.
Which app did you use? May I ask?
The
Just
Gates
curious.
app, Windows. Whoopsie.
Oh no. Sorry. Okay, we'll have a talk offline. Uh, so anyways, so awesome. So tell me more about the 4D split, and like what can people do about it? Is it something that people need to look at within themselves, or yeah,
I
like
think
what did
so.
you yeah, what did
Like,
you what did you
like,
learn from that knowledge?
um, you know what's funny? That's when I started like really opening my eyes to the female abusers in my life and started letting them go. It's like I don't want to feed energy into that split. I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started letting them go. But for me, I'm a big shadow worker. So anytime I have a client or hear a story or anything that triggers me, I always go into myself and try to figure out, why did I get triggered? Why do I have to move that piece? And there's so much blame and shame going on. Is all that is projection of what's going on inside. And
Sorry.
oh, that's me.
Yes.
People want, they want the angels, they want the aliens, they want these experiences, they want the spaceships to come land. Well, that's not going to happen until we shift the frequencies inside. Like, they're not going to pick up on dense energies, they're going to pick up on high vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really about, like every time I get a client that's like, oh, my family's toxic. I don't talk to my family, they're toxic. It's like, uh-oh, here we go. Because it's not your family that's toxic in most cases. It's your own wound being reflected back to you. And it's
Right.
it's that family member just showing up, or your spouse just showing up, or your boss, to what you need to fix inside of yourself.
Exactly. It's a mirror.
And I feel like that's boring to a lot of people. Like, oh, I don't want to do my shadow work. That's boring. I could go chase the alien, or I could go, whatever. But to me, it's like you can't take that density with you. And to me, it's that it's it takes a lot of courage to face those inner shadows.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Holly, I lost my ability to see the live chat on
I see us.
on my computer, so I'm looking on my phone. So, we do have a question from the chat room. First of all, Olivia says, going with love and forgiveness in your heart, which can be tremendous given the past, can be achieved by remembering that it is the past. Picture it flowing down the stream, knowing you are stronger. So thank you for sharing that, Olivia. That's beautiful.
That is really beautiful.
Also, we are so many things. Main one to me is being a loving being. And Dal Drapu, do you know him? He says, "Hi Holly, great to see you." And we have a question from Jeff Demers.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, get ready. And John wants tacos. Okay. Jeff says, "Does everyone go through the 4D shift, or do you have a choice?"
I don't think everybody goes through it. I don't think so. I think that's why people get ill and die. I think that's why people get in accidents when they're really young and die. I don't think everybody goes through it. And this is just what I've gathered from the Mayan code and Barbara Handclau's work. Barbara Handclau, her work. No, I don't think we all go through it. I really don't. And I also don't think that we are in total free will and sovereignty either, because it's in my line of work. When we have that wound, it constantly projects through our consciousness. And that's where we come into Huascar, the keeper of the underworld, which is, he resides in your throat chakra in shamanism, Huascar. And that's the gateway to the underworld. It's the gateway to the subconscious. So when we're having a conscious experience, our subconscious is in the back. Like, it's like the sound, the production guy, the soundboard guy, right? He's tweaking stuff. He's tweaking it a little bit. And so it's getting into that. And so every time I clear a client, and then I bring in, I do this whole light activation thing. And I always make sure that when they're dealing with their throat chakra, they're sourcing words consciously and subconsciously that bring them what they want. Because a lot of people will, go through these energy clearings, but they forget to program the mind. And if you don't unwind what's in the mind, you're going to pull that energy right back in. So you have to be super conscious of what you're currently manifesting. And as Olivia said, the past is the past. And so many of us source from the past, or we jump into the future and it knocks us right out of the present. And when we're still, we have access to everything. Like, I literally won an argument with an MIT graduate on metal. I don't know anything about metal. And he jammed me up and he asked me a question, and I got really still for a minute. And I was like, tungsten, the answer is tungsten, right? Oh, he was pissed. He was pissed.
Because you had the answer.
I had the answer. Oh, I shut him down, right? But I really didn't have the knowledge. Like, I don't know anything about metal. I don't have that knowledge. But when we're really quiet and still, we tap right in. right? We tap right in. That's what limitless is shutting up for 2 seconds so we can
Mhm.
tap in.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Well, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. If you guys have any other questions, I think I can see them now on my phone. Thank God for technology because that's not working. So, awesome. So we're now it's already 5:30, man. We're going down to the final half hour soon.
wow.
We've got about 40 minutes left. So, yeah. So, um I think I'm going to do a digital detox next week. So I think I'm going to take a week off, no social media, no computers, and maybe just allow myself like one movie a night or something. I never watch TV. I don't even watch movies. We just can't because I have young kids. But if I do any screen time, I'll watch like Out of the Shadows or something, which I haven't seen yet. Did you see it?
I watched it last night.
Oh, wow. Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. I've been on this path for so long. It's like people are just talking about looking glass technology now. It's like I learned
Mhm.
about looking glass in 2008. I've nerded out a long, long time ago, but yes, it was good. It was really good. I totally recommend everyone watching it. It had a really good message because it
Yeah.
was like I didn't really know what it was about, but it's about these stuntmen in Hollywood that wake up and they start going down the rabbit hole. And I think it's cool for people to hear stories like that, especially if they're like kind of on the fence.
Mhm.
And to hear these testimonials from people who are just having these awakenings, just having these experiences, right? I think it
Yeah.
makes it more digestible. Because I mean, I I know for me, like if someone starts talking to me about chemtrails, I'm just like, dude, I like, please don't. I learned about chemtrails in '96.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a long time
I mean,
ago.
so yeah, and so I feel bad, like I get a little short patient, because everyone's really angry. Did you know they're spraying in the sky? I'm like, yeah, I do.
By the way, I have a theory about that. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I do.
So, chemtrails, they're releasing metals, right? Aluminum, barium, all these toxic chemicals into the air. And we've been breathing them into our lungs for, what's it been? Several years now, at least 5 years, right? Probably more.
I learned
And
about chemtrails in '96.
yeah,
That's
so
like 30
gosh,
years.
that's
Or, well,
24 years.
yeah, 20.
My math is right. Um, Anyways, it's been a long time. And I mean, this is totally crazy. Talk about conspiracy theory. But I have a sense that now that we've got all these lovely metals in our lungs and they're, you know, sitting in there, and people, what's happening with people in COVID-19? Their lungs are being impacted.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So whether you believe in the 5G theory or not, it's very possible that when they turn on these 5G towers, it's activating something in your lungs that's been sitting in there dormant and you can't breathe. And I haven't read that anywhere. Have you? Because that was just my own like putting things together.
Excuse me. There's a lot of doctors saying that is what they're experiencing looks a lot like it looks a lot like oxygen depletion, like they're literally getting their
Right.
cells starved out of oxygen. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
And whether that's 5G or not, I definitely am huge against 5G. I believe that the nanoparticles that we're breathing within us can actually be structured by different microwaves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 5G can affect your body in 400 different combinations. It is horrible.
Yeah.
And, in China, the women wear smocks. Oh, you're going to get me going now. The women wear smocks to protect their fetuses against the 5G. In Israel, there's radiation warnings on the cell phone. And in Europe, you can't, it's recommended that children under 10 don't use cell phones because of the thickness of their skulls. So I definitely think
Yeah.
that the planes have something to do with it, the chemtrails. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. With the COVID-19?
You
Is that what you're
know,
saying?
I believe the towers are weaponized.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe I know they're weaponized, or dudes wouldn't be putting them together with hazmat suits. I am so anti 5G, but Trump is supposed to be bringing in Cove Fifi, is that how you say it? Which is the Space Force, what I heard, is supposed to be bringing in like this 6G, and it's cleaned with magnets so it doesn't deplete our oxygen.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that, but I did see something that was like, well, when he kept saying Kofifi, it was like a code. It wasn't that he just can't spell. But I didn't hear that part.
Right. So oh man, it's not Wuhan, it's something else. Um the Chinese 5G. And again, this isn't the Chinese people, just to be clear. It's the government. It's the Communist Party government who's
Hmm.
listening in right now because Zoom, it's all owned by China. The drones that every single police force uses are Chinese. They've got cameras on them. They're sucking in your facial ID recognition. And then what are we going to have? We're going to have little social credits. Oh, Holly, da 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 da. And it's like, yeah, I did rack those puppies up. And so I firmly believe that if we don't change our thoughts, we're going to go to social crediting. They're going to weaponize the 5G. They've already used it as a weapon. They used it in China and they used it in Cuba, the 5G weapons on our embassy people. They used it at they used sonic sound weapons at the DAPL pipeline in the Dakota, like the big pipeline. They
Wow.
blasted people with that. So we
During the
are,
protests.
yes, the protest. So we are literally allowing this 5G to come in. Of course, they're making all the birds fall out of the sky.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. And
It's
tons of dolphins and whales being beached up. Now that could be totally something else, but it's like what's happening? Why are animals dying in mass? It doesn't make
right.
sense. Yeah.
I believe part of it's the 5G. I mean, I came down my street the other day, like the main drag here, and all the trees were cut down, and all of them, right? They cut down all the trees, and I called the city and I said, what is going on? Are the trees cut down because of 5G? Because the trees interfere and they block it. And
Hmm.
they said, no. So far, Portland's not allowing in 5G, but I mean, Elon Musk is bombarding us with all the satellites.
Wow. Did you see the footage of all the 5G towers being burned all around the country?
I heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I saw a video last night that had at least 5 different cities around the US where people are burning down the 5G towers. And, I don't know if those videos are real because anyone can put together a video and say, this is where it's happening. But it sounds like people are starting to stand up and fight back, you know, which is a good thing.
It is a good thing, and I think the whole like new age infiltration is telling people to be complacent, and we cannot be complacent. We can't be totally chaotic and disruptive, but at some point we really have to start questioning what's going on, why is it going on, and what are we going to do about it.
Hmm.
Like all the like I want to go paddle boarding, right? That's my sanity. I deal with so much sexual trauma and just so much like horrific stories in my practice that my decompress is like paddle boarding or snowboarding. So they closed down the mountain. but there's some of us that are still going. Um,
Shh.
Come get me. Like, really? Can't catch me on my snowboard. No. And then it's like, I want to go paddleboard. I want to be on the water. So they are literally denying us our medicine. Just like your friend in Australia who wanted to go put her feet on the grass,
Yeah,
that is medicine. And they're denying us our medicine. And
absolutely.
at some point, we have to say enough is enough.
Yeah. Yeah, just for those of you who missed it, I shared a story about a friend who lives in Australia yesterday, and she wanted to go outside and put her feet on the ground. She hadn't been outside in 5 days. And I don't know what kind of building she lives in, but it gave me the sense that she wasn't allowed to leave her building. And she called the police and said, "Listen, I'm really struggling here. I'm really depressed. I need to go put my feet on the ground." The cops showed up at her door, and she said, "Can you just walk me, to the nearest piece of grass? I just need to sit on the ground for a minute." And they said, "No, I'm sorry. This is for your own good and everybody else's own good." And that just broke my heart because I was like, wow, we're so lucky here that we still can go outside and be in nature. And our numbers are way higher than Australia's numbers, so I was really surprised to hear that. But I've heard that they've got a more heavy hand there anyways, especially around vaccines, and we won't even get into that topic tonight. But but yeah, so that was really um that really hurt my heart to hear that story, because there's people suffering, and it's like, if this continues on for too much longer, I feel like people are going to start standing up and start protesting. And hopefully the protests are peaceful, you know, because those might have a bigger long term impact. But, I mean, you can't even protest right now, right? Isn't that like you'll be taken to jail because you're supposed to be in shelter in place? So that's a big problem.
Yeah, but at what point do we risk going to jail for our freedom?
Yeah. Well, at some point, if this keeps happening, if this keeps going longer, I think more people will be willing to do that.
Oh yeah, I I do too. You know, I took a walk down by or I jogged down by the park today, and there's a playground, and it's like there were two moms with their little kids, and I just and the caution tapes all around the playground, and I almost stopped and said, take the tape down and let your kids play, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to waste my time explaining. I hate to say that, but I had to get back here and everything. But it's like
Mhm.
it what so now the kids are crying because they can't play. Come on, man. Every mom's got their bottle of hand sanitizer. Let the kids play.
Right.
And
And the kids aren't the ones being impacted either. Thank God. But, people will argue the point that, well, they're going to contract it and give it to their, elders or whatever. So, which may be true, but maybe their grandma lives really far away and that's not an issue for them. That's what I heard in Switzerland. People are still allowed to be out and about, and they're telling people, like, keep 6 feet apart and make your best decisions. Like, be smart about it.
right,
They're
right.
they're letting them make their own decisions, knowing there's a risk that you may die if you catch this illness. Catch.
Just like there's a risk every time you get in the car.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think the numbers are so skewed. And I think and I took it totally seriously at first. Like, I'm like, dude, what is this? I'm gonna be super careful, blah, blah, blah. And then, I said Dr. Shiva is amazing. If you guys haven't listened to Dr. Shiva, he's phenomenal. He funds all of his own research. So, I've been listening to Del Bigtree, Dr. Shiva, and it's like, you know what? I'm not gonna live in that fear. I'm not going to live in that fear. I mean, I'm not like rolling up on somebody in their personal bubble. I'm staying a little bit away, and tomorrow
Yeah.
I'm going to go to someone's house and work on them at their house because they don't want to come into my office. But it's like, at what point do we put down that fear? And that fear is always something within us. It's not out there. We
Yeah.
all have the choice to like work through that fear. And that's what I like so much about the archetypes and the shamanic is like Sachamama is allowing us to shed those stories. Sachamama is a serpent residing in the first chakra. And she allows us to shed those stories and those parasites, just like a snake that sheds the parasites and the stories so they can grow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean,
gotta
I think
start.
I think we have to do whatever we can to stay out of fear right now. That's a really big topic for me. You know, like I go out in public, I wear a mask because I don't want someone else to be afraid of me. You know, like I know I'm not going to catch it. I know I'm not going to get sick, but I don't want anyone glaring at me and shooting eye daggers at me because I'm not wearing a mask. And I don't want them to feel afraid either because of my presence. So I wear a mask so that other people will feel safe around me. And I think if that's an important if that's a reason that resonates with you and that's why you want to wear a mask, then great, you know, do it. Like don't worry about the, you know, the mainstream messaging or whatever, that it's you're by wearing a mask you're like submitting to this big fear mongering policy that we're all being put under, or programming rather,
Well,
you
I
know.
think that's super considerate of you. And I don't, where's everyone getting their masks at? Like I totally was like, I don't want people
Amazon.
to see, I don't do Amazon. But I'm like, I don't want people to be afraid of me when I go in the store. Like, I feel really bad. And then I heard the funniest thing ever today. Like, this is so stupid. Like, on the news up here, the radio station, there's like, and if you have old ski goggles to donate to your doctor, I mean, like, what? Come on, your doctor's going to come in sporting some like spy goggles. Uh, Come on, they're all tinted, right? For a sunny day. It doesn't work like that. Come on.
I saw a YouTube video. You could make a mask out of an old pair of socks, which is pretty cool. Make sure they're not too old.
Now you're making me feel slightly guilty.
No, no, don't feel guilty.
I mean, that was my thing. I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they do need to feel a little uncomfortable.
Mm.
Like maybe they do need to question. Right? Like my friend's coming over for dinner after. Whoops, I know, too bad. And she's a nurse at Stanford. She was. She's a nurse at Stanford. She's like, oh, I've taken care of AIDS patients. I've taken care of Ebola. I'm not afraid. I'm coming over. I'm like, okay. And she's got 2 small kids. So when you see people that are actually in the medical field on front lines and they're like, I'm not worried about it, then it softens the fear even more.
Yeah. Yeah. And since we're talking about the nurses and the doctors, you know, I want to give a shout out to all the people who are on the front lines helping those who are sick and who are suffering, because you know they're working like extra long shifts, they're putting themselves in danger, and you know, thank God for those people. So shout out to all the health workers out there for sure.
Absolutely. Because not only everything that you just said that they're putting themselves at risk, some of them aren't even seeing their families.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're camping in campers in their front yard, like in their driveway, and they're just seeing their family through their window.
Oh, right, because they don't want to expose their families. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel so bad for the people suffering in the hospital. I have a family member in New York who contracted it, and she's in the hospital. She's been in the hospital for like 7 or 8 days now, and no one can visit her. No one can visit her.
How old is she?
She's 49.
Really?
Yeah, she was on a ventilator for like 8 days, something like that. But now she's going into rehab, so she's doing better. She's coming out.
Wow. Does she know how she got it?
They live in a very like closed community. They're actually Hasidic Jews.
Mm.
it's a long story. Family member converted to Judaism, so they it's a very close knit community. They do everything together. They get together all the time, and so I guess in the beginning, and they're in New York, which is the highest hit place,
Right.
and so they weren't taking the precautions of wearing masks and doing isolation and stuff like that. So it's not totally surprising that she got it.
That's really unfortunate. Right before I went to Peru, my office mate had come back from New York. So I canceled 2 new clients and I didn't go in because I didn't want to take it to Peru.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not being that careless. I just don't have a mask.
Right. Well,
Wow, I'm
you're
really
good.
sorry for your family member. I have a client whose father passed away from it in New York too. So it is a real virus.
Right. Well, it is a real epidemic. It's a real pandemic. I don't know that I would define it as a virus, but that's what we've been taught it is. So we'll just call it a virus for now.
Good point.
So, anyways, I would like to end this on a positive note, and I would like to talk about how people can stay positive during this time. So, do you have, I know I have some ideas, but I want to hear your ideas and I want you to share them with our listeners. What can they do to stay positive and stay out of the fear frequency as we go through these final 30 days, hopefully in lockdown?
I'm actually enjoying all the family time. You know, bust out games. I mean, enjoy the downtime. Take that thing off the back burner, whatever it is. Mine was video editing. Um, Take the time for yourself and for your family. It
Mm-hmm.
is really hard. We homeschool, like you and I homeschool, so it's easy. But for these other people that just got their kids thrown at them, you know, with the schools closed, it is a blessing. It is really a blessing. Um, Also, you know, if you're gonna jump down like the mainstream media, give give other people a chance. Like Dr. Shiva, he's actually running for, I want to say, Congress or Senate in Missouri. He's phenomenal. He will break it down for you. He'll make you feel so much better, and he's very easy to listen to. So expand expand your media outlets a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Push yourself a little bit. But I'm enjoying the time. Like I've taken up jogging, I've learned video editing. Like I'm having a blast. In fact, I'm so busy on this lockdown that I can't wait for it to be over.
I
What?
know what you mean. I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
it's like I am
Yeah.
so busy. I've gotten to, you know what? And that's the other thing. Get off the screen and call somebody. I reconnected with my old mentor's wife. I reconnected with her, and we spent about an hour and a half on the phone, just laughing and reconnecting, and it was a super high quality conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So make that voice to voice, make an old fashioned phone call. You
Right.
know, keep it sacred, keep it intimate, pick up the phone and bring quality back into your life. What are
Mm-hmm.
some of your suggestions?
Well, that's really good one. So, on that note, I would take it a step farther and say, call somebody who lives alone. Call somebody who's elderly. They might be really lonely. I'm lucky I get to shelter in place with 4 other people, and we can go outside and we can see people. But there are people who live alone and they're really scared. So I would say call them, make them laugh, brighten up their day, especially if they're maybe a family member you haven't spoken to in a while. So I would do that. I would turn off your TV, stop watching mainstream media, maybe do a screen detox or a social media detox for a few days, because there's a lot of information out there and a lot of it is not true. And just know that when information comes in, even if it seems like a really credible source, it may not be true. Like, none of us have the truth. None of us know exactly what's happening. I'll I'll go so far as to say that I don't have the answers, because everything that's coming in is from someone else, whether it's through a screen or through audio or whatever. I'm not there. I'm not in the hospitals. I'm not on the front lines. I'm not in Wuhan. I didn't really see what happened there.
You cut out. You cut out. Can you hear me?
See, as soon as I said stop watching the news, I cut out.
Right. And you know what? I really like
That's
how you
funny.
said call somebody alone or a family member.
Yeah.
You know, now is a really good time to practice forgiveness and put your differences aside. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're a Democrat and they're a Republican, move, jump over that fence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, move past all that. And
play cards against humanity. Olivia
there,
said that at ESETI. That was so funny. Yes,
oh, maybe,
learn meditation.
yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I was getting at when I said I'm going to do a digital detox next week, because I'm on I'm in front of the camera all week this week. And so next week I'm like, that's it. I'm going dark. I'm going to get off my screens, get off social media, and just like garden, meditate, be with my kids, do more coloring. I love doing that coloring where you color in the little design. I forget what it's called, but it's like
The
meditation.
yeah.
Yeah. And just, I'm going to do stuff like that, stuff that's offline. So that's my pledge. I invite you all to do it with me. 5 or 7 days of digital detoxing. And at the same time, I think I'm going to also do like a food detox, and just do like some fasting, some liquid fasting. So I think it's important. I think we have to get ready. We have to gear up for what's coming, because, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And then when it gets better, it's going to get really good. So I just feel like we're kind of in the calm before the storm right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been baking a lot more.
That's fun. That's fun. Kids love that.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, take this and don't be afraid to step into your feminine or your masculine, like embrace.
Mm-hmm.
Just embrace your gifts in this time.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to work on. Actually, if you're going to take up meditation, or do more meditating, work on that. Work on balancing your masculine and feminine, because that's what this whole thing is about. That's what this whole war is about. Like, the whole planet's been off balance in terms of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and think about ways that you can bring those more into balance. It might be physical things that you're doing. I know that when I realized my masculine and feminine was off balance, I did things like I wore pink, I started wearing dresses, I wore softer colors. I had to like do it on the physical so that it would penetrate into the emotional and energetic body, because that's how far out I was. I ran my energy very masculine. I wore short hair, I wore black all the time. I was like business, da da da, and I realized like I can't run my energy like that. So I started pulling in the divine feminine through the physical, in the physical space with colors, clothes, things like that. And then that was like a visual representation of what I was striving for on the inside. So, guys, do whatever you need to do to like work on balancing that, because it's super important right now. Yeah.
Oh, and if people can't go outside, like your friend in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
salt baths, take an Epsom salt bath. And if
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have Epsom salt, just use any sort of salt. Take a salt bath to help you ground and detox too.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So we've got like 10 minutes left. Oh, and garden, start growing your own food. That's really important.
Yes, we did that. We got all the little egg cartons and we cut off the lid of the egg carton and planted
Mhm.
all these seedlings, and we just put the peas, like the sprouts, in the bed, and we're growing tomatoes, and absolutely grow your own vegetables.
Mhm. So good.
And
This is the right time to do it too, spring.
so you think we're gonna go into a lot worse?
I don't think we've seen I don't think they've pulled out all their ammo yet. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they're testing us right now to see what we can tolerate in a way.
right, right.
Um, so there's a question here for you in the chat room. Holly, do you approve of Q or do you believe Q?
Do I approve? I like how that sounds. Yeah, actually I do. I'm into Q. Of course, I let X-22 report like decipher, like depict it all for me, but whether Q is real or not, it's giving people a lot of hope. And I think that if we didn't have this positive thing to look forward to,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people would start losing hope. Um, yeah, if it's real or not, I don't know. It does seem to be pretty in alignment. I never fully buy into anything 100%, but yeah, I'm liking the Q. It's positive. It gives us hope. I hope it's a real deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really followed Q per se, but I have seen, bits and pieces here and there, and I understand the theory of it. But I know that there are some hardcore followers out there. And I believe they follow him or her or them uh, because it does bring hope, you know, it brings a lot of hope. People need something to believe in right now.
You know, they really do, but I also think that I mean, so I listen to the X-22 report all the time, and it's like, okay, if he's really um unraveling Q stuff the way he is, then it's that spot on. I mean, that's it. They definitely have looking glass. Like they definitely are. They know what's going on. And I
Hmm.
find it totally fascinating. And then the other thing is, if enough people start believing, whether it's true or false, it builds its own consciousness anyway. So it's building this positive consciousness, even if it's not real, because that's how consciousness works.
Can you remind me what looking glass is again? I knew it, but it's not
Yeah,
triggering
it's
my
that
memory right now.
technology where you can look into the future.
Okay.
But then they were saying that after 2012, everything got kind of skewed looking into the future. So it's this they use argon gas, I think it is, and then they get somebody. It's kind of like remote viewing into
Hmm.
the future. Um,
Is it the one that like can calculate all these different timelines and predictions, like
yes,
possible scenarios? And I think Corey Good talked about it um,
yes.
on Cosmic Disclosure.
So
Yeah.
supposedly the cabal has it, but it's Q's got to have it too, or he's got one damn good crystal ball.
He has a smart glass pad.
Yeah, he's got smart glass. Exactly, exactly. But no, and that's another thing that I've been doing for fun is I have a buddy up here in the Portland area, and he's been giving me remote view targets, which is fun.
Oh, really? Have you
Yeah,
been
yeah, yeah.
doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's right. You took a course at ECETI or something, didn't you?
I took a course from John Vavinko, and so I learned controlled remote viewing. And this guy did remote viewing under somebody else, so it's fun to see the differences. And so
Hmm.
I just gave him a target, and I gave him the best Target. I gave him the Heavenly Donut Shop.
Did he get it?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him yet
Oh,
because
okay.
we're exchanging targets, right?
Yeah,
So
just to practice.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
first one I did, and his friend worked at the remote or at the Monroe Institute, and we'll hang out and do like reverse speeches, and we'll just totally hang out in remote view. It's so much fun. But
Have you
yeah,
been
I
there?
just, huh?
Have you been to the Monroe Institute in Vancouver Island?
No, but his friend teaches,
I've
and
been invited to go. I want to go. It's like a, you know, a week long thing. It's really affordable actually. But you know, it's just hard for me to get away for that long. But
oh, you've got to do it.
yeah, I would love to do it. I'm gonna have to ask for a big present. So this is really funny. John said Jason quit is cute.
We shall see, won't we?
Oh my god.
That's funny.
That is funny. He's based on Jason, true story. Oh my goodness.
That's great. I thought it was JFK Jr.
Who's cute? Oh yeah, that's a theory that he's back. He's back from the dead.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's and that's the other thing too, like what you said earlier, there's so much information out there that how can you don't take any of it too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like don't put your eggs all in one basket because that'll just blow your trip.
Totally.
You
Totally.
cannot do that. And I think we're at a really crucial point right now where discernment is key, even if it bends your most core, you know, beliefs. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be flexible right now. You've got to use discernment.
Absolutely. Discernment is so key right now. And, you know, I feel like the only place to really get answers is to go within. You know, sit down, meditate, ask for the answers that you're seeking, and ask to get them, you know, in different ways because they may not come in the way that you're expecting or hoping they'll come in. But like we all have to go inside and use that as our trusted source of information because we're all looking outside too much right now and there's just too much information flying around.
You know what? Yeah, and I think when people do start going in within, it really it it builds our intuition. Like it makes our discernment so much more clear.
Mm-hmm. So much stronger. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That
And
that's a good back burner thing to do right there. Work on your intuition. You know, take a week and train yourself how to hear your inner voice, how to uh listen to that channel. You know, it could be really small things like which color should I wear today, which foods should I eat today, should I turn left, should I turn right, and just see if an answer comes in, you know, or a gut feeling, and listen to
that's a
that.
great idea. And you know, you can even take a deck of cards, just the regular playing cards too, and
Mm-hmm.
try to see, you know, like feel what card is there.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. And you know, another little exercise too is that people, if they're really struggling with a family member, how we talked about putting differences aside, write a letter and burn it. Right, get it all
Yeah.
out and burn it. That's a super powerful exercise.
That really is because our words are so powerful, but when we put them on in writing, they become even more powerful. So that's a really big way to heal. I think I'll do that. I'm sure I can think of somebody I owe a letter to.
Your stepdad?
No,
Okay.
no. I think we worked on that, didn't we? We worked on that.
Oh man,
No,
but I mean,
I forgave him. I'm not holding grudges against him. I mean, he was just totally out of my consciousness. That's why I was so surprised when he came in because he had to apologize to me. So
oh, You cut out again. You 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 froze. Can you hear me?
My internet connection is unstable.
I was getting that too.
Okay. So I was saying that I didn't even know he had transitioned. So I learned in that same reading that he had transitioned. So it was a shock, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
So
that's
he came through to apologize and say like I'm really proud of you, and you know, he said I take good pictures.
nice. Yeah, that's it. That is very shocking to learn that somebody
Yeah.
has transitioned,
Yeah.
especially through like a reading like that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
shocking. Or
Yeah.
not even through a reading, just in general. If you hear that somebody transitioned, that's yeah, that's hard.
Hmm. Yeah, but it was all good. I feel very complete around it. I feel peace around it. So
Good.
good.
And I think that's another thing that we, right now really need to work on is not you, but coming to peace with those that we're not at peace with.
Hmm.
Forgiveness is a really big thing to work on right now because
Yes.
again, it creates that dense energy, it creates those cords, creates that resentment, and you can't pull that through the rabbit hole to the other side. You can't do it.
Hmm. Absolutely. And we have to, remember that when you forgive someone, you're really like you're you're healing yourself. It's not just about letting them off the hook. It's about healing yourself because you keep that cord connected to them and that pain and that resentment and suffering. And so you're suffering. So when we forgive, it's like we're cutting that cord and we're allowing ourselves to heal from that trauma without needing their permission or their apology or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. So that is
And
a big one.
And I feel like when we can cut that cord, we release them too, and maybe they'll move on to change their ways. I
Hmm.
don't know.
I think so, because you open up space to allow them to become a higher manifestation of themselves. It's like freeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, yeah, those cords are so important to cut, to let go of.
Hmm.
It's crucial. And I think when people don't do that, they're going to attract more of it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen that story unfold a million times, right? And our chakras just clog up with more of that dense energy. And that's the cool thing about clearing the chakra system is it lightens it up, it releases it, right?
Hmm.
And when we don't forgive, it turns that chakra into a backwards vortex and it sucks in all of that sludge.
Wow.
Well,
That's a that's big.
really?
Yeah.
Well, that
I have a vortex that's sucking in sludge. That sounds
yes,
terrible.
when our chakras are out of alignment, it sucks it in the other way, everything we don't want. And we just start we didn't even talk about the Taurus. Oh, the Taurus, it's my best new theory. Like how
Okay.
when we're in love, light, and bliss, like our toroidal energy field goes out, and then when we have trauma, it flips and we suck in all that density. And then that's when we create the energy vampire,
Hmm.
because we start sucking it. Because Michael Tellinger, when he stays at our house, he brings the toroidal field rocks, right?
Yeah.
Those big donut rocks. And they have an access, like an axis. And so there's a right side up and upside down. And if
Hmm.
you invert it, it starts screwing up the energy of the house. And then
Wow.
when it's upright, it creates this beautiful vortex, right? So I
Oh, you
started
cut
thinking
out.
about, I am. What
Can't hear
happened?
you.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can they hear me? Is anybody listening?
Okay.
Oh, you
You're back. You're
hear me now.
back. Yeah.
So I related it to heart math, right? the Heart Math Institute when you're in coherence with your head and your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're in alignment, we're our toroidal field is putting out all the positivity. Then when we get into that trauma, it flips, and then we start sucking it in, sucking it in, sucking it in. And that's why it's so important to
Wow, I
clear
never
our
heard that.
stuff. You
How do you,
what?
I haven't heard that
Oh, because
theory.
that's my own theory.
How do you flip it? How do you flip it back the other way? Sorry.
Well, for me, I mean, that's what I do in the shamanic clearing. I literally go through each chakra, and I wind it out with a rattle. And then when like you're you open the Viracocha, the eighth chakra, and then you bring the energy from the eighth chakra, so it bypasses, right? It's just direct channel with spirit. You bring that into all the chakras, and then the pendulum will it'll spin clockwise when the chakra's in alignment. Mm-hmm. So when I'm like doing my shamanic work, and it's like I'm testing out the chakras in person or remotely, and then it's like, oh, okay, like what are you feeling, and then I'll go, and if it's in the second chakra, I'll be like, oh, what happened between like 8 and 15, because in my training, the chakras are developed every 7 years, so I use them as a timeline. And then you're literally clearing out the hucha, the dense energy out of that. And then, so when it's dense, it'll spin I can't even do it. I'm counterclockwise for density. And then when the chakra's cleared, it will spin
clockwise. Oh, fascinating.
That's
really interesting. So I finally got my crown chakra, is what you're saying, when I hit 49.
Fully developed.
Fully developed.
Okay. Fully developed. Yeah, wow. I'm not even there yet. I turned 48 next month. So I still got a lot of developmental stuff to do. And then they say that the 3 lower chakras, which is all out of survival, shut down through ascension, and our heart becomes the root.
Yes. Yeah. I've heard that. We were talking about that last night. We've covered a lot of the same or similar topics as last night. It's kind of interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you should go back and watch that.
I will.
Yeah. It's really cool. Yeah, absolutely. She was saying that I don't know if I can paraphrase it correctly, but she was saying that part of this attack that we're experiencing right now is they're shutting down the 3 lower chakras. They're impacting the 3 lower chakras. So our safety, our security, our survival, our empowerment, our divine will, all of that's being shut down right now with what's happening. And so it cuts you off from being able to stay in the higher chakras, so that was really poignant. And she connected it to the earth chakras that are like what's happening to the earth chakras right now is also happening to us. So it was kind of interesting, really fascinating.
That's really cool. Yeah. That's interesting, because a lot of people that I run into haven't heard that the first 3 chakras are going to shut down, and then our heart becomes our root. I'm not comparing what I'm going to say to hers, because you were paraphrasing and I didn't hear her, and it does sound fascinating. I don't know if the lower 3 shut down due to what's going on or not, like that. I don't know, but I do find it fascinating that as we process through this, like our heart becomes the root, and then our galactic chakras begin to open up. And it's like, how cool is that?
Well, and I've heard that too, kind of more like in the context of, as you start to awaken and as you start to develop your spiritual side and as you start to heal all of your chakras, then you like reside more in the upper chakras. Your energy, you run your energy from the heart up, and you have that divine connection to source more readily accessible all the time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So
And
cool.
and that's like the biggest three chakras that always need the most attention too, is the first, second, and third.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know. I know.
after that, it's like you're fine. Not all the time, but and I trip out. Like if someone's got their third eye or their crown out, I'm like, oh, that's really unusual, right? It's
Mhm.
always the lower chakras, and that's where
Or
all the
the
trauma sit. Yes, the throat's a big one. Yeah. Did we cut off? Can you hear me? You can't hear me, can you?
That's so funny.
Oh, you froze.
Yeah, so right when I said the throat chakra cuts out, the sound cut. That was funny.
That's interesting.
I know. Well, sister, I have kept you beyond 2 hours. It is 6:11. So I want to thank you so much for your time, and I don't want to
Oh,
keep you over the 2 hours. Jeff says your feed is okay. Maybe I'm the one just cutting out. Are there any last minute dying questions for Holly before I let her go? Let me read to you some of the comments.
oh no.
Olivia says, donuts. That's back when we were talking about donuts. And Dal said, great stuff, ladies. Love your perspectives. Olivia said, thank you, Sheree and Holly. Love you, with lots of hearts.
Oh.
And there was a comment. Lavinia Cardani said, yeah, Reiki. I have my thoughts about that, Holly. Good point about dumping. And yeah, there's trauma is light. Leaking people give away their own power to heal their own trauma. They sometimes give it away to the therapist or card reader.
Yes.
And she says, and before that, she said, that's why traditional therapy sometimes does not work, because the trauma just becomes recycled and reopened and not healed. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. It's awesome.
Yep.
So awesome. Any last burning questions, guys? Otherwise, I'm going to let Holly go. And I thank you so much for your time. This was a fun chat, a fun hangout. I feel like we covered a lot of different topics.
You know, I hope so. I deal with so much one-on-one trauma, like just crazy trauma. Like it's unbelievable what people walk around with. So I hope people were okay that I kept it lighter. I feel like everything is so doom and gloom right now, and I feel like we just kind of need to lighten it up a little
We only
bit.
talked about entities and possessions.
Oh, we did. That's right.
We got heavy a little bit there for a minute. But yeah, no, I appreciate your humor and for bringing laughter to these conversations, because laughter is the best frequency, right? It keeps us light, keeps us high, and it heals a lot.
Yeah, like almost after every session, I kind of have this thing like, oh, nurses wash blood and urine off their hands. Shamanic practitioners wash tears off their hands. Like when
Aw.
I'm literally cradling someone's head who's bawling, like your hands get like drenched in their tears. It's such a humbling experience. It's
Wow.
so humbling.
Yeah, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, so, well, cool. Sheree, you have really amazing women on this week. And I'm super honored that you asked me to come on. I really am. Sometimes I feel like I'm in my own little bubble. So I totally appreciate you. And
Oh, thank
it
you.
was a lot of fun and the time flew. So I just thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. The time totally flew, which is a good sign. That means we were having fun.
Fun on lockdown.
Yeah. Olivia says, will she speak about her experiences whilst in Peru? Thank you. We talked about that, Olivia. We talked about whether we'd talk about that or not. And it didn't really come up because so much has come out already, but it's up to you, Holly, if you want to share just anything about that?
It was a whirlwind of of it was just a whirlwind of constant groundwork, trying to be on the phone with the embassy, congressmen,
Oh no.
uh, representatives. It was constantly trying to wait for the email to get out of there. We did have to sign government IOUs. It is not on your taxpayer dime. Like we paid to get out. Looking back in hindsight, I I'm not sure if I maybe overstepped groundwork. I think I was a little more edgy because my son was with me, so it's like I got to get him home. I'm not sure if I would have been in a different state if I turned it over to spirit more than what I did. But the next time I go into a country and get on quarantine, I can experiment more with spirit then. Just kidding. I don't want to be on quarantine. I'm just kidding. I am going back to Peru though, because I didn't do what I needed to do.
Yeah, you didn't get to do what you wanted to do there, which is such a bummer.
No, I went to sit with the Great White Solar Brotherhood, which are the initiates of Mu, like Lumeria. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to do that. And I've met the elder one time, and it was the trippiest experience. And I read their book, and they go into this high village in the Andes, this monastery of the seven rays of consciousness, right? And they have star eyes, and they walk through walls. Oh, really? I got cut out when I was talking. You can't hear me? Totally cut out.
Yeah. It's so weird that our sound's cutting out, but not the picture, isn't it? It's usually the
Yeah.
other way around.
Yeah. So I was just saying, like in this monastery where they get initiated, they literally can walk through walls. It's super fascinating. So we weren't going to that monastery. We were going to the retreat center down in the Sacred Valley, but I need to go back. Like I need to go sit with these initiates. Like it's just I'm so called to do it.
Wow.
So
What a bummer, the timing, the way that it worked out and everything. Well, you'll go when it's divine timing, you know? Maybe you'll go during some sacred gateway opening and it'll be like even better than what you expected.
right? I mean, something's got to make up for that trip.
Yeah. Oh, Tanette just joined us. She said, "Hi, Holly." She's sorry she missed the
Hey,
live.
hey,
Yeah.
hey.
We're just about to
That's
hang up so you can watch the replay. But
that's
thank you.
awesome, Tanette.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you so
Nice.
much for joining us and
Thank you.
yeah. This was
Thank
fun. This was really beautiful. Oh, it says some people can hear you when but not me when the sound cuts out. So it's really fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, my dear. Well, thank you. It
Yes.
was awesome. And I will be in touch with you soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I want to touch base about a couple things. So we'll have to talk offline soon. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom, Holly. And you guys, please come back. We're going to have Alexis Buck on tomorrow night from the Ascension Diaries. She's the one who does all the Schumann resonance measurements and the solar flare measurements, how they hit the earth. And, she's been studying this topic for longer than I have. So it's really like going to be fun. And she was on the show a couple years ago as well. So she's coming back, which is really awesome. And then on Friday night, we have Viviane Chouvet, who is an Arcturian hybrid
Mm.
and a longtime experiencer, and she's a healer. And, I did a meditation with her last week on the supermoon. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go watch that on Facebook. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe and share. Leave a comment in the comments. That would be amazing. And And that's all I have. That's all for now. Thank you so much. Keep glowing, keep your divine energy up, stay in love, and go do your back burner stuff. Get some gardening, get some meditation done.
Right.
All right, everyone. Have a beautiful evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Good
Bye.
night.